feel like it's been a hot minute since I've done a video like this, and by a hot minute, I mean almost like 7 years. Before we get started though, I want to tell you guys that I am linking all of this stuff below in the description so that you guys can easily find the things that I'm kind of talking about. However, if you guys have a Catholic store in your area, a local Catholic store, please consider supporting them instead of some big corporation like Amazon. With that out of the way, here are some things that I think all Catholics should own. Am I gonna split this up into a part 2? I'm not really sure because it depends on how long part 1 is, but I have a lot to say, so we'll find out. All right, the number one thing I'm gonna say every Catholic should have is they should have a Catholic Bible. When I first reverted, I started with a Catholic note-taking Bible just off of Amazon because I didn't have a lot of money and I wasn't really sure what type of Bible to get. And that Bible served me really well for so many years. But then a couple years ago, I think in 2021, I ended up getting this Bible, which is the Great Adventure Bible from Ascension Presents. And I love this Bible. This is my favorite Bible. This is the Bible that Father Mike Schmitz uses for the Bible in a Year podcast. To be clear, this is not sponsored. I don't work with Ascension. I don't have affiliate links or anything like that with them. I just really love this Bible. And I highly suggest it to anybody who might be struggling to read the Bible, especially if you're like me and you can get distracted easily. Just because this Bible has awesome timelines and visuals, and it just really helps me to picture where we are timeline-wise in the Bible. Now, some people might ask, well, why a Catholic Bible specifically? Why can't I just get a Protestant Bible off of Amazon or something? And the reason as Catholics we have a Catholic Bible is because we have all the books of the Bible, which is 73 books. So basically, Protestant Bibles only have 66 books, but there's 73, and those extra books are crucial for understanding the faith and tradition and other things that we do as Catholics, like the teaching of purgatory. So I really do love this Bible. I think it's a great investment, or even like a gift. If you know somebody who is in need of a Bible, like this would be a great gift for them. And it's just really great because it has the narrative and then it has the summary. It also talks to you about the whole timeline of things and how this all works together. It's just so helpful if you're like me and you just struggle with context and you struggle with like history and keeping things straight. Okay, I'm gonna stop yapping about my favorite Bible, but you should definitely get one of these. And if you were like me when I first reverted and you cannot afford to drop like $50-something on a Bible, totally get that. I will link some affordable options in the description below for you guys that are still great options. I just really love this one. The next thing I think all Catholics should have is a rosary, obviously. I have been gifted quite a few rosaries over the years, and I've bought a lot of rosaries too. Let me just remind you that having 1 or 2 good rosaries is perfectly fine. You guys do not need to go out and buy the latest rosary that somebody just dropped or something. I know I sound hypocritical. I used to drop a rosary every year. I was really passionate about it back then. But spiritual gluttony is real, and you really only need 1 good sturdy rosary. I think this one's actually from the West Coast Catholic. I think Mari gave me this one. She's great, you should check her out. I love her. But when you do get a rosary, you can get a rosary with a specific medal in the middle. Maybe you have a specific devotion to a saint, or there's some sort of color combination that you prefer for your rosary. I mean, there are so many options for rosaries out there. You are not going to have an issue finding one that you love. For me personally, my favorite rosary was an Our Lady of Sorrows rosary, and I ended up actually giving that away to somebody who at that time I thought needed it more than I did. That's a whole other story, but we also can't be super attached to material things because we can't take them with us. I digress. I gave it away, but that was probably my most favorite rosary I have ever owned in my entire life. I have others that are great. Like I have my wedding rosary. I have this one from Mari. We have some from Rugged Rosaries. We have some from Blessed is She. We have a lot of different types of rosaries, and they are all great and they all serve the same purpose. All you really need is a sturdy, good quality rosary to take you through life. You don't need so many of them where they start to pile up and they create clutter. And at the end of the day, if you cannot afford a rosary, use your fingies. But the rosary is a meditative prayer. It's where we meditate on the life of Jesus. So it's best if you pray it alone and in some sort of solitude where you can close your eyes and actually imagine the mysteries happening in your mind, similar to how we do Lectio Divina. And I think I've made a few videos already about the rosary, but I do think I need to do an updated one. So I will try to do that if that is something you guys are interested in. Basically just like the history of the rosary, how to pray it, etc, etc, etc. But until I get to that video, I will link the old ones in the description below to hold you guys over. But the rosary is just such a powerful prayer. It's a powerful weapon. Our Lady has asked us to pray it in almost every single single Marian apparition that's happened. And unfortunately, even though I'm not as consistent with it as I want to be or how I used to be, I do find that in times of high stress or when I'm uncertain about stuff, the rosary just offers me a lot of comfort and consolation that I would need in those situations. So get a rosary, get it blessed, boom, you're good to go. Okay, the third thing I think all Catholics should have is some sort of medals. I personally suggest the Benedict medal and the Miraculous medal. Those are my top two medals. But honestly, there are so many different saint medals you can get. You can get one for your specific confirmation saint, your name saint, if there's a saint you're drawn to, if there's a specific Marian apparition, like you can get so many different types. But I highly suggest you at least get one Miraculous medal and one Benedict medal, and you guys get them blessed by your priest, and then you guys can either wear them or you can keep them nearby as a reminder. And then you guys can either wear them or you can keep them nearby for protection and as a reminder. Honestly, we have St. Benedict medals all over our apartment. I literally, like, they're everywhere. But St. Benedict, he has actually helped me so much. He's a twin of St. Scholastica, and on his medal on the back here, you can kind of see it, there's an abbreviated exorcism prayer, which is why, in my opinion, it's one of the most powerful medals you can have and a very, very important medal to have in your home, or to wear, of course. And I mean, you all know me, I am really into demonology and the spiritual side of stuff, not in like a weird way, of course. I think when I say that, people are like, that's kind of weird. It's not weird. I was raised in a haunted house. You're just gonna have to take my word for it that it's a healthy obsession. But I've always been fascinated since I was a little girl and I couldn't explain what was happening to me in this haunted house that we were living in. So then when I reverted and I started finding the church's teachings on demonology and the spiritual side of stuff, it really helped me understand the spiritual side of things and how demons are really on short leashes. And basically it just really helped me understand my past in some ways, but from a Catholic perspective as opposed to a New Age perspective. Okay, and then the Miraculous Medal. So we actually got the Miraculous Medal because Our Lady appeared to Saint Catherine Labour. She was a novice sister in Paris in 1830, and when Our Lady appeared to her, she showed her the design of the Miraculous Medal that she wanted to be made, and it came with a specific promise, and that promise was all who wear it will receive great graces. They should wear it around the neck. Graces will abound for persons who wear it with confidence. Originally, the medal was actually called the Medal of the Immaculate Conception, but then because of the constant miracles that were happening and all the conversions that were happening due to this medal, it just eventually became known as the Miraculous Medal. And actually, I'm wearing one from Immaculate Blessed at the moment. You guys probably see me wear these all the time, and yeah, I do wear these all the time. But basically, let me see if I can take this off to show you guys. Might be kind of hard to see because it's gold and not silver. So I can see it, but I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see it. So basically, encircling Mary here around the medal is the prayer, "O Mary, conceived without sin, pray for us who have recourse to thee." And then you can't really see it, but there's streams of light coming from her hands here. And these streams of light are coming from the rings on her hand. And St. Catherine asked Our Lady, why were there some rings that didn't have rays of light coming from them? And she said that those represented the graces that people don't ask for. And then of course the image itself, it's Our Lady standing on the globe, on the world, crushing the head of Satan. And obviously this symbolizes the prophecy in Genesis 3:15 where she crushes the head of Satan, basically like the ultimate triumph over evil. And then on the back here, there is an M intertwined with a cross. And this basically represents the inseparable connection between Our Lady and her son Jesus Christ. And then of course the 12 stars that are encircling that, I don't know if you guys can see. Hopefully you guys can see this. Those 12 stars represent the apostles, and then also the vision of the woman clothed with the sun from the book of Revelation. I think you can find that in Revelation 12:1. My arms are getting tired of holding it up, but on the back, there are also two hearts. One is the Immaculate Heart of Mary, and the other one is the Sacred Heart of Jesus. And that basically symbolizes their united suffering for humanity. So anyways, basically get one of these medals. They are amazing. Have your priest bless them, and then also pray that prayer that's on the Miraculous Medal. The one that goes, "O Mary, conceived without sin, pray for us who have recourse to you." Highly, highly suggest. The graces that you can receive from these are very, very helpful. Okay, next up is a crucifix. This is one of very many crucifixes that we do have, and having a crucifix as a Catholic is really important, mainly because I feel like human suffering is one of the hardest realities to navigate for us, but through the visualization of the crucifix, it gives us as Catholics a way to process that pain through something called redemptive suffering. And I think just being able to have a crucifix and contemplating the crucifix, realizing that God did not shy away from human suffering. He literally dove headfirst into the worst type of human suffering there is. So when faced with illness or hardship or grief or anything, any type of suffering, it can come in all different shapes and sizes. As Catholics, we are told to offer up our suffering and unite any type of suffering we have with Christ on the cross, and it's just really great to have this visualization. And I think it offers a lot of comfort because then we realize that our suffering isn't meaningless, our suffering is actually efficacious, and it does go towards a greater good. So I think having a crucifix, having a visual of Christ's suffering for us is great, especially when you're doing your prayers or your examination of conscience. You can get one like this that hangs on the wall, or you guys can get one, oh, I don't want to get up. Or you guys can get a standing crucifix if you guys prefer that instead, which just stands on its own. We have both different types. We actually have a lot of different types of crucifixes around here. But the point is, I think it's just really great when you're contemplating and you're praying to just unite your suffering with Christ and have that reminder. Okay, next up is holy water and sacramentals. Now, I couldn't find our holy oil and I couldn't find our holy salt, but it's around here somewhere. Now, technically, the rosary and medals and things count as sacramentals. Basically, they are objects that God uses to distribute graces to us in the material world. But I have some Lord's water here, and then just some regular holy water here. And then you can also get, like I said, blessed oil, blessed salt. And all you have to do is take regular water, regular olive oil, regular table salt to your priest and just ask him to bless it, and boom, you have sacramentals. And I just think these are always really, really great to have on hand. You can use the salt, oil, or water for cooking if you want to, but I want to be clear that these are not like superstitious items. We don't believe that the power is in the sacramental themselves or in the material thing, but it comes from God. And we use them to bless ourselves, to bless rooms, to bless anybody we have authority over. So if you are a father, you can bless your wife and your children. If you're a mother, you can bless your children. You can't bless your husband because that's just not how the authority works. But Catholicism is a very deeply sacramental faith. So basically what that means is we rely on physical things like water, oil, salt, candles, I don't know, metal, stuff like that to point to a spiritual reality. And again, we don't believe that these items are charms or talismans or whatever, I don't know. Instead, we believe that God can use material things and physical things to distribute graces to us. And having these different items effectively turns your house into the domestic church. I mean, in general, you're already the domestic church, but through having sacramentals and reminders and things in your home, you are weaving your faith into your everyday life instead of only going to Mass on Sunday, and that's just the extent of practicing your faith. So get some holy water. Sometimes churches just have them, and you can get these little bottles off of Amazon, or you guys can get them at your local Catholic store. They're really cheap, and it's just really good to have these around. Okay, the next thing, I was gonna say, I'm still wearing it. Scapular. Now, you'll have to be confirmed in the Catholic Church before you are enrolled in the scapular, but simply put, if you are a confirmed Catholic, but you don't know if you have been enrolled in the scapular, or you know you have not been enrolled in the scapular, you can get a scapular from your local Catholic store or offline. It should be a wool one, or it could be smaller, or it could be metal if you're in the military, and you take it to your priest, and then he will enroll you in the brown scapular. Does not take very long at all, and then if your scapular breaks for some reason, or it gets like, stringy or something, I don't know. You don't have to go and get re-enrolled in the scapular or anything like that. You just have to get a new scapular and start wearing it because the blessing is on the person, not on the scapular. But then once you're enrolled, the person who is enrolled usually submits to specific spiritual disciplines. So traditionally that includes chastity, depending on your state in life. So if you're single, obviously not having sex outside of marriage. If you are married, obviously practicing chastity within marriage, however that looks for you specifically. So not watching porn, all of that stuff. So practicing chastity in your state in life is the most important one. And then after that, it's daily prayers, which traditionally is the little office of the Blessed Virgin Mary, but if you talk to your priest, he can usually give you a dispensation and do a daily rosary or a different type of prayer instead, or even like fasting from meat on certain days, and then also wearing the scapular 24/7. I know a lot of people like to take it off while showering. I take it off while showering, so it's really not that big of a deal at the end of the day. And also I hate having like a wet scapular on my skin. That just feels so gross, but wearing it basically all the time. So I highly, highly suggest suggest that one. I think that's a great devotion. Okay, number 7. I think every Catholic should have sacred art or statues or something in their home. So like the same way that having a crucifix is really important to remind us of certain things, sacred art is also very important because it reminds us of heaven and it calls to mind a spiritual reality that we oftentimes forget. And I think the most common question that people have is like, does the Bible forbid making graven images, and do Catholics worship statues? And it's like, the short answer is no. The Catholic Church draws a very strict line between two different concepts, which is worship and adoration, and that is reserved for God alone. Catholics do not believe that statues have feelings or powers or divinity or anything like that. So worship and adoration is for God only. But then we have something called veneration and honor. So this is a very high form of respect that's given to Our Lady and saints, similar to how certain nations honor heroes with some sort of monument, or I don't know how you might cherish a photo of a deceased loved one or something like that, basically giving somebody the honor that is due to them. So no, Catholics do not worship statues or images or anything like that. Okay, number 8. I wanted to put this one at the top, but I was like, it's too obvious, they're gonna know. And that's the Catechism of the Catholic Church. The word catechism actually comes from a Greek word that means to echo or to instruct by word of mouth. And for centuries, basically the catechism was just a set little list of principles written in a very simple Q&A type of format because it was meant to quickly teach converts and children about the faith. But now, obviously, we have a very thick Catechism of the Catholic Church thanks to St. John Paul II, which is absolutely wonderful to have, but I don't currently have ours. I don't know where I put it. We have so many books everywhere. I still have not unpacked half of them, and we might have accidentally left it at my mom's house. But the nice thing is that if you can't buy a book, it's free online. All you have to do is type in the Catechism of the Catholic Church and it'll pop up. Does the website need to be updated? Yes. Kind of hurts my eyes a little bit when I look at it, but it is free, so easy to look stuff up that way. But every single Catholic should have one of these, and they should read it, and they should constantly reference it. And you don't have to read it like cover to cover. It's not meant to be a cover to cover type of book. It's more or less meant for you to go in and find things that you need information about. So just going to the index and being like, okay, I have a question about this, and then going to that paragraph of the catechism and learning what it says about that. This is going to be a lifeline for you, especially with the amount of influencers online claiming their opinion like it's dogma. This way you'll know what the Catholic Church actually teaches, and you won't be led astray by others online, who I'm sure mean well, but also that's just the reality of being online. There's a lot of information out there, and not all of it's very accurate. Okay, number 9, prayer journal. I think I just took this one from my mom's, to be honest. Contrary to what people say, you do not need to get a fancy, crazy prayer journal unless you want to. Like, you can, but I'm sure most of us have a journal lying around that you guys can use. Just something that you like, that's visually appealing to you, and that you are willing to write in. And I guess this one's technically more optional than like, oh, you have to have it. But in my opinion, if I didn't have my prayer journal, I genuinely don't know how I would process some of the things that I've gone through. You can just talk to God and put everything in here. Your joys, your hopes, your dreams, your struggles, anything. And sometimes just getting out of your head during prayer and being able to physically put it down on a page does a lot more for you when processing something than trying to keep it all in your mind. And I also love prayer journaling because when I go back through my entries and everything like that, I can see how God has answered those prayers, especially when I've either forgotten about them or I didn't realize that, oh, he answered that, but it wasn't in the way that I expected. So I thought he didn't answer it, but oh my gosh, he actually did. So I think prayer journals are really important for Catholics. I don't care if you're a guy, all right? I don't care if you're a girl. Get a prayer journal, start journaling, find one you like, and see how God is working in your life. It's like a little time capsule. Okay, and number 10, Catholic books. This is gonna count a lot more than just 10 things because I have a few Catholic books. I think I have like 7 altogether that I think you guys should have. Basically, these are the top ones that have helped me the most over the last 7 years that I've been reverted and learning and coming back into the faith. So I think all of these books should be on your bookshelf. You should read it at least once. And then of course, feel free to put your own suggestions in the comments below because I'm always looking for some good book suggestions. Now, technically I have 7 books, but I don't have all of them with me. I think I only have 4 right now. We ended up having to leave a lot of stuff at my mom's house just because we live in a small apartment, so I don't have everything with me. The number 1 book you need to read and it needs to be on your bookshelf, is The Soul of the Apostolate. I don't care if you don't post online, I don't care if you do post online or if you're planning on it, you need to read this book because it teaches you how to not get too involved and wrapped up in yourself when you are trying to serve the church. I think it's really easy for us to kind of get sucked into activism and become very self-centered when it comes to doing good works in the church. And this book just kind of hits you on the head with a little reality. I have read and reread this book probably 3 times at this point, and I will continue doing so because I am in this space and I need to make sure that I am staying on top of things and I am not getting swept away with my own pride or my own arrogance. It just really helps to keep you humble and to realize things that you probably didn't realize you were doing. The next book I highly suggest, and this is more of a fun book, like I love this one. It actually taught me so much, and I love Divine Mercy. You guys know it's a huge part of my reversion story, and I'm also really, really big into spiritual warfare, and so this book just put 2 of my favorite things into one, and that is Spiritual Warfare and Divine Mercy by Father Ken Geraci. He is fantastic. I love him. He talks about so many important things in this book about divine mercy and how we can fight back against the temptations of Satan, and how the mercy of God really is something we need to focus a lot more on today. And then he also talks about just like practical tips and all of this stuff that's so important for us to keep in mind when we're going through our day-to-day life that I feel like we often forget. He talks about the different types of prayer that you can do, how you guys can do them, the different types of fasting, how you should fast, and then basically talking about how all of this does play a role in spiritual warfare and how we can fight back against it. He also discusses how the chaplet is one of the most powerful weapons we have and how you can use the image of divine mercy for war, basically. Anyways, this is just a wonderful book. I highly, highly suggest you guys read it. I don't have the cover on it anymore. There was a sleeve over this. I don't have that anymore, but I have read this book. Oh, I dog-eared a page. Let's see. Is it anything important? I mean, it is, but you know what I mean. I am going to read this. Calling people names and participating in other personal attacks does not build up the body of Christ. Rather, it tears it down. Remember the 9 ways of participating in the sins of another. And you can find that in the Catechism of the Catholic Church, 1868. You can participate in the sins of another by counsel, by command, by consent, by provocation, by praise or flattery, by concealment, by partaking, by silence, by defense of a sinful action. When popular evangelists or YouTube personalities post vehement attacks against others, especially bishops, cardinals, or the Holy Father, we can participate in those sins by viewing or sharing their content. Rather, we must follow our Lord's direction to Saint Faustina to shun murmurers like the plague. There is no sin in dealing with the subject matter itself, only when making it derogatorily personal. Sometimes it is necessary to identify the person that has given scandal through his behavior or teaching, but the contents of the rebuttal must be restricted to the teaching at hand and not focus on fault-finding or name-calling of the individual. And I'm gonna leave that page dog-eared. And then another book I highly suggest is The Essential Catholic Survival Guide by Catholic Answers. This just has really great information for anybody who is new to the Catholic faith and just needs to know like the bare bone basics of everything. It's a very thick book, but it's highly referenceable, and I have really loved that book when I've had it. And then piggybacking off of that one is also Why We're Catholic by Trent Horn, and it basically just goes through why we're Catholic, and I think that's a very important book to have. Unfortunately, I have left both of those books at my mom's, but they're very, very good, and I highly suggest you get them. Okay, the 5th book I suggest is Conversation with Christ. Many of you might already be familiar with this book, but I think that this is probably one of the most helpful books I've ever read when it comes to prayer and what happens when I go through like a dry season. Pretty sure I underlined some things that I thought were important. But basically, this book talks to you about how to pray. It literally tells you how to have a conversation with God and make it efficacious and make it profitable. Not like profitable as in like materialism, you know what I mean? That's not what I mean. It means like you actually make a connection with God and like how to properly pray, especially if you're going through a dry season. Whenever I feel bored in my faith or I'm going through a dry season, I reference this book again. And I was reading this when my dad was dying of brain cancer, and it says, the death of a loved one, for instance, may so engage one's attention that it will serve as an excellent entry to conversation with Christ, the consoler of hearts. And then there's another quote. One ought not to be discouraged if he finds that his meditation has been punctuated with distractions and mental wanderings. He should keep in mind St. Teresa's remarks that success at prayer is assured. He simply must give it time and effort. So if you are somebody who's going through a dry season, all of us will go through one at one point or another. I highly suggest this book because I think it's extremely beneficial to keep you on track and to kind of keep you from falling into that lazy mindset of, oh, well, I don't feel like praying, so I'm not going to pray. The next book I highly suggest is The Secret of the Rosary by St. Louis de Montfort. You know, I don't actually know if I ended up finishing this book now that I think about it, because a lot of these books I started when my dad got sick, because we were at the hospital for so long, for many days on end, that I basically just brought a bunch of books with me and I started reading them, and they gave me a lot of consolation. But I don't know if I ended up ever finishing this one, but it is so good. It is specifically about the rosary and how to meditate on it and how to, I guess, make your rosary prayer meditation more efficacious. I think I ended up reading this on my Kindle because I remember highlighting a bunch of stuff on my Kindle, but this is my husband's book and he doesn't mark his books up at all, and so I have absolutely no references or things to basically quote for you guys that I'm like, oh yeah, this was really helpful during this time. But I guess I can read you a little bit from the 8th rose. It would hardly be possible for me to put into words how much Our Lady thinks of the Holy Rosary and how she vastly prefers it to all other devotions. Neither can I sufficiently express how highly she rewards those who work to preach the devotion, to establish it, and to spread it, nor on the other hand how firmly she punishes those who work against it. But it basically goes into the history of the Rosary, how Our Lady uses the Rosary. It goes basically in depth into the Rosary in a way that you have never ever witnessed before. There has never been another book like this, and yeah, it's irreplaceable. I highly suggest it. And then the last book I highly suggest is The Writings of the Desert Church Fathers. It goes by a few different names. Sometimes it's the Quote of the Desert Church Fathers. There's a few different ways of doing it. It's on my Kindle, but my Kindle's dead right now because I use it so much. But I think in a landscape in Catholicism, especially online, where Baroque spirituality is really running rampant and causing a lot of people to be scrupulous unnecessarily, the teachings of the Desert Church Fathers are really helpful in kind of striking a balance between hardcore brimstone fire and scrupulosity and things like that, and like God's mercy and charism and things. It just strikes a wonderful balance between the two, and I really wish I had it because I could have quoted some things for you guys, but I don't have it with me at the moment, so you're just gonna have to read it. Y'all, I'm getting tired. I'm getting too pregnant for this. But yeah, basically those are the top 10 things that I think all Catholics should own. Comment below what you guys think people should own, or if any of this stuff has helped you, or if any of these books have helped you. We can chat in the comments a little bit more. But yeah, I just really appreciate you guys being here, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. Bye!